What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Engage 8 podcast. I'm your host, Zach, with my two co-hosts, Josh and Mike. Today, we're going to be talking about the Final Four and the national championship that happened this past week, along with our first ever Engage 8 mock draft. We're doing all the entire first round plus pick number 33 just to even things out and give those Carolina Panthers fans a shot at just seeing what they have to look at and look forward to. But first, Josh is going to get us started with some probably some emotional words about John Calipari and the head coach vacancy at Kentucky.
Well, I've got a lot to say. First of all, if you don't know, I don't know how you don't know, but Calipari is going to Arkansas 6 years, I believe 8 million per year. It's crazy. He met with Mitch Barnhart. They said they were going to keep him at Kentucky. Apparently, he talked to the Arkansas AD when he was in Phoenix for the Final Four. Um, and here we are a week later, and he's the head coach at Arkansas. It doesn't look right. It makes me feel weird, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. Um, I wanted to talk about some of my favorite Cal memories to honor him. He's getting really dragged right now by Kentucky fans. Personally, he's one of, if not my favorite coach to coach for any of my sports teams in my lifetime. And I owe a lot of my memories from college basketball to John Calipari. So I wanted to talk about some of my favorite memories. But first, before that, I don't know when it was. It was maybe pre-COVID, before Stafford got traded. I was thinking about, like, at this moment, it was past Calvin being traded or retiring already. Like, what are the three most like monumental things that would like fuck up my sports watching, like just fuck up my life? One would be Stafford leaving the Lions. That one happened. Two would be Cal leaving the Kentucky. Now that one's happened. Three would be Book retiring slash leaving the Suns. Well, that one hasn't happened yet. So knock on wood on that one. But I'll run through some of these Cal memories really quick. The entire 2014 tournament, that whole run, beating Wichita State, Louisville, Michigan, Wisconsin. Him saying that he made some tweaks before the tournament. They go in as an 8 seed after a disappointing season and make all the way to the national championship where they lost to UConn, who we will talk about here in a little bit. But 2015, that obviously that 38-0 season was maybe one of the best years of my entire life. What, they were 38-0 at one point.
That's not what they finished, though.
Did I say that's what they
Can
finished
you can you
as?
can, you gotta say the whole record?
They were 38-1. And they in that
Let's
tournament
not
run.
act like one loss is something to be ashamed of, though. I mean,
Hey,
hell of a
if,
year.
if they had the year where or if they had the rule where you could review shot clock, maybe we're not talking about 38-1. But they didn't
Mm.
have that rule yet. So but yeah, no, that run was great. The West Virginia blowout game where they came in as, oh, we can maybe upset Kentucky and then dominate them. That Notre Dame game that was really, really close in the Sweet 16, that game was super fun. 2016, Jamal Murray trying to separate Cal and the ref 2 minutes into the game against South Carolina. He gets ejected for that. Same year, Tyler Ulis and Jamal Murray against A&M in the SEC tournament. That game, one of my favorite college games of all time. 2016, De'Aaron Fox and Isaiah Briscoe got the second and third triple doubles in Kentucky history, like in a few games. That was a wild run. 2017, of course, Malik Monk, the nuclear game, end game winner against UNC in the regular season, not in the not in the Elite Eight, sadly. But 2017, in that tournament, De'Aaron Fox versus Lonzo Ball in the Sweet 16. That was such a hyped up game. Everyone was talking about it. De'Aaron Fox got the best of him, as he tended to do in his career and continued to do in the NBA. 2018, the Cats were down 17 to a top 10 West Virginia team. That was a team with Javon Carter, former Sun and current Bull.
Woo.
Um, come back to win that game behind Kevin Knox's 34 points. That was a game where it seemed like all hope was lost. For the season in the middle of that one, they come back. That was a crazy comeback. Tyler Hero against Houston in 2019, the Sweet 16. 2020, Cal getting ejected at Arkansas, and then team comes back to win. Bit of a full circle moment there. 2020, shout out Mike, Tyrese Maxey, game winner against MSU in the State Farm Champions Classic. 2021, Cal gets ejected against Mississippi State. Dante Allen, former Mr. Kentucky basketball, hits 7 threes to win that game. And then 2022, Oscar's 25 rebound game. That was just electric. And that's just a few memories. Like I said, he's one of, if not my favorite coach of all time. Definitely going to miss him at Kentucky. There's not a lot of guys who could do this job. And I'll get into that now as I'm just going to talk quickly about the future here. Now that all the sentimental shit's done. But all right.
What's up, everybody? It's Josh. A little editor's note here because everything I'm about to say is absolutely irrelevant. I'm about to talk about the coaching search for Kentucky. We recorded that Thursday night at about 8 Eastern, just an hour after we recorded the pod. We got note that Mark Pope is going to be the new head coach at the University of Kentucky, former BYU coach, Utah Valley coach, I believe, a few years ago as well. He was on the 96 Kentucky team that was referred to as the Untouchables. Um, I'm going to keep in all the stuff that I said talking about the coaching search because I do mention Mark Pope and talk about how I don't remember my exact words, but I would not be happy if he was hired as head coach. Last night when I found out this news, I was pretty pissed off. Just because of the fact that you have Hurley and Scott Drew that both say no. You have the opportunity to wait on Billy Donovan another week to ask him to be your head coach, and it looked like there was a good chance that you were going to get him had you waited that out. And then we get rumors that Mitch Barnhart, Kentucky's AD, has kind of gone a little bit rogue and went against what the boosters wanted. And that, I mean, I didn't want Mark Pope to be the coach to begin with. There was plenty of other guys, even that tier that I talk about here in a bit, of Beard and Pearl even and Shaka Smart. I would have wanted that tier over him at the time as well. And then to find out that the boosters were not happy about it and that we might not get as much NIL support, that just made me even more mad. That was a cherry on top. But as I go throughout the night, I sleep on it. I wake up today, start looking around, and I'm seeing that he is getting supported by the boosters and he is getting NIL money. And then we get the video of Rick Pitino coming out praising him. Everybody, all of these outside people from Kentucky are coming out and saying how Pope is an offensive genius. He's a really smart guy. He's a guy that absolutely loves the university being on that 96 team. And then that kind of levels me out a little bit. Am I ecstatic about this hire of Mark Pope? I'm not. I mean, regardless, whoever the coach is, I don't care if they hired a high school coach. I want them to win games. Of course, as a fan, I'm going to support them and I'm going to want them to win games, whether I like the hire or not. But I've come around a little bit on this hire. Pope, I will say another thing, he has not won an NCAA tournament game, which is something that is crazy. But you have guys like Jay Wright, who went to Villanova, didn't win a game at Hofstra in the NCAA tournament. So it's happened before. We've seen it. He is also, which is a big thing, good friends and former roommates with Jeff Shepard, who also, of course, went to Kentucky. Reed Shepard's dad, who Reed Shepard is right now waiting a decision of whether he's going to come back for his sophomore year, if he's going to go to the NBA draft and probably be a top 10 pick. Um, Hope Pope coming in here is just going to help that case to get Reed Shepard to come back. People have talked about how crazy it would be if Pope comes out on Sunday at the introductory press conference in Rupp Arena and comes out with Reed Shepard. That would be crazy. But apparently Jeff Shepard has talked to Pope since about possibly having Reed come back next year. That would be huge. That would really rally the whole fan base up, and I think that would completely change the trajectory of Mark Pope's career at Kentucky. He runs a modern offense. They were ranked high in the net this year with BYU recruiting. So if he can recruit better, then that's another thing that concerns me is the recruiting. But as long as they have some NIL money, I feel okay that they can at least get some decent players. Maybe even if maybe we're not getting 5 McDonald's All-Americans every year like we've been for the past 15 years, but we can still go get some 4 stars and 3 stars. And if we're coaching them up and they want to play it for this coach, maybe they can make some noise. We've seen, I mean, look at all of these teams, man. We've seen it before. These teams winning without 5 to 6 to 7 5-star recruits, and then Kentucky gets that, and we go out in the first round. So maybe a change of pace is nice. Like I said, I'm more okay with it now, than I was last night, uh, before and after we heard the news of him getting hired. The best part about this for me, though, is just his obvious love for Kentucky. He's so pumped for this job. He loves Kentucky like a fan does, and having that at the helm, I think, is good to calm down this fan base, knowing that they have a guy who wants to win as bad as they do. The big thing with Cal over the past 15 years when he hasn't succeeded, especially over the past 5 or 6, it's everybody saying, oh, he just cares about getting players to the NBA. He doesn't care about winning games. Mark Pope is going to care about winning games. Whether he does or not is a different question, but he's damn sure going to try to win games over anything else. And it looks like Kentucky might get a couple BYU players and maybe a couple players that Pope recruited, but said no to BYU, might be interested in coming to Kentucky. So we'll see. Jaden Quaintons liked a post about Pope coming to Kentucky. So we'll see. Maybe you get him back after he was released from his letter of intent. But yeah, I just wanted to come on here and give a couple takes on the Mark Pope thing, considering I talk about every coach in the world, but all I do is give like a couple sentences saying I don't want Mark Pope. So I figured I'd come on here, say all that. And yeah, we'll see where it goes for Mark Pope, but I hope it's successful and enjoy the rest of the pod.
I'm gonna cut the shit. As much as I supported Cal and I did want him to stay, he had a make or break season next year. If he had a bad year next year, lost in the first round again, he was getting canned. So avoiding that, putting all that pressure on him for one season was kind of stupid, and I'm happy that that didn't happen. Sucks that he's not going to be here for the future. Kentucky does avoid that $33 million buyout for him because he just left, and he violated his contract, so he had to resign technically. They only had one tournament win since 2019, so that's a tough situation. My top three after Cal got fired was Hurley 1, Scott Drew 2, Billy Donovan 3. We're down to Donovan. Scott Drew today said he talked with his family and he doesn't want the job. And the rumors are, it's confirmed that he was at a restaurant the other day in Waco, and there were Kentucky fans calling the restaurant and asking to speak with the guy in the white Baylor polo. And he ended up getting on the phone with a Kentucky fan who was like, "Yo, come to Kentucky, come to Kentucky." And then he sent his family to Lexington to go view Lexington, see if they liked it. And Kentucky fans were on Twitter following the plane all the way to Lexington. They got spooked, I guess. I guess they're just not built for that. And I will say, even though I really wanted Scott Drew to possibly be the coach, if you can't handle that and everything that comes with being the Kentucky head coach, you're just not built for the job. So I'm happy if he's not built for that. I'm happy he chose to not do it instead of force himself to do it. Hurley would have been great. I think they offered him somewhere in the range of 15 mil. I do believe that he's currently making 5, and he denied that, so there was no getting him that at that point. And that were down to Billy Donovan. I like Billy Donovan. I think that would be a good hire. Only thing that scares me is his time away from college. College game is just so different now than it was when he was in college, and that definitely scares me for his future. There's other options like Chris Beard, potentially Bruce Pearl, a couple SEC guys. I'm not really fond of that, but I guess I wouldn't hate Chris Beard. I wouldn't love Bruce Pearl. And if they go with Mark Pope, I am going to riot. I hope the streets of Lexington is just a war zone if they hire Mark Pope. I don't understand how you do that. This is Kentucky. It's not BYU. It's not these little schools. It's not Kansas State. It's not Louisville. It's Kentucky. And you can't hire a guy like Mark Pope in Kentucky. That just makes no sense. Last thing I'll say here, because I've been yapping for about 10 minutes now, it feels like. If you don't get Billy Donovan and you have all these other options on the table, you have Beard, Pope, Pearl, whatever way you want to go, I would throw the bone at old Ricky P in New York and just let him come to town. Let him have like 4 years. He's in his 70s. He's not going to fuck anything up too bad in 4 years. If he does great, that's great. If he doesn't, he can retire and ride off into the sunset. Who says no?
Yeah. Two things I gotta say real quick. One, let's say you hire Billy Donovan, right? Billy Donovan becomes the next coach. How would it be with Billy Donovan playing on Billy Donovan court in Florida?
Damn. That would be electric, actually. And he would play there every year.
Yeah, he would play there.
I didn't think about that. That would be cold, though, Loki.
As a Kentucky coach going to play on your court in Florida, that would be very interesting. And two, what about Kenny Payne? Anybody reach out to Kenny Payne?
No, he's going to Arkansas, I think.
That wouldn't make sense.
Timeline makes sense. I would have been fine with him coming back to Kentucky as an assistant, but as we've seen, we don't need him as a head coach. But that's all I got to say about this. I'm kind of out of breath, so if you guys want to start with the Final Four or the national championship, or if you have anything to say about Cal, I don't know.
I mean, I'm gonna miss him. I'm not as avid of a Kentucky fan as you, but I'm definitely gonna miss him. I think his recruiting will be missed. Just having a bunch of young guys on the same team, trying to get them to gel throughout a college season. It's a tough thing to do, and then going on a 6-game win streak to win a national championship, it's a very difficult thing to do. So with a lot of young egos in a locker room, it's a very difficult job for any head coach. So it's impressive that he was able to do it for this long. I think you can argue maybe I'm on my Giannis shit with this, with levels to success, but I think he was a very successful college head coach at his time in Kentucky.
4 Final Fours, national championship, 50 players in the NBA. I think that's successful.
That's
successful.
Some slight.
Yeah, something decent. One of 8 active coaches who is a champion right now. Scott Drew is one of them too, and Hurley. Tom Izzo, yeah. Would Billy Donovan will make it 9 if he comes back home.
That's true.
It was on the Kentucky staff, I believe, in like the 90s.
Interesting.
Billy Donovan was, so they're the
you know who played for them in the 90s, right?
I mean, a lot of people.
Mark Pope.
Oh yeah, no, fuck Mark Pope. He's like the only like former Kentucky player right now who could even have any sort of resume to be the coach, and his resume isn't close to where it needs to be. So he's an absolute no. Absolute no.
Interesting.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Maybe, I mean, the way it usually goes, I'm sure we'll hear right before I post this podcast who the next coach is, and then we'll talk about it next week for 20 minutes. But the thing with Billy Donovan, though, is they have to wait till Wednesday when the Bills lose in the playing game.
Bulls.
I said Bulls.
You said Bills?
Oh, sorry. When the Bulls lose the playing game. Sorry,
we're playing merchants.
The Chicago Invitational. My bad.
We're going to bring in DeAr DeRozan. She's going to scream. We're going to win games.
I was just telling Rachel about that. You guys gotta make sure she's there. If she's not there, it's a wrap.
Continuity, am I right?
They were 0-1 without her, right?
Yep, and 1-0 with her.
Yeah.
Gotta have her there.
Still, Billy took out Kobe White with like 3.5 minutes left in last year's second play-in game against Miami, and then we just couldn't score the rest of the game. So.
Well, Billy might be checked out if he thinks
last year before he knew Cal was gone.
Do they? I forget. Do they say? I know they don't say with NFL. Do they say how much NBA contracts are?
Oh, jeez. I think they extended him behind closed doors as well after last season.
I hate that shit, bro.
Yeah, I do too, because we suck and we shouldn't be extending someone like that. We should have blown it up an offseason and like 2 off seasons ago, and now we're sitting with $60 million in players that don't even play in Lonzo and Levine, and I don't know. It's just
he's locked up till 26, 27.
Yeah,
that's disgusting. Fire him, please. But I want to go back to
please fire him. Please fire him.
I'm going to be bittersweet about that because I don't know if I want to see Billy's dumbass on the bench at Kentucky now.
Oh, I will say, I was telling this to Mike last night, kind of similar to this situation. I was listening to Matt Jones talk, and he said that he heard that they were in contact with another NBA guy, and he didn't really know who it was, but he had a semi-hint, and he hinted at Frank Vogel. And my heart sank.
Oh my God.
Mark Pope, Frank Vogel is... I'd rather have Pope than Vogel.
I was going to say, yeah.
I'd so much rather have Pope than Vogel.
Fire them both into the sun.
Oh Has Vogel coached in college before?
I don't think so. Not that I know of. He's had a long NBA career, though.
Is it easier or harder than the NBA?
Significantly harder.
Okay.
Significantly harder.
See, I didn't know that. I figured
you have players that are less talented. You got to...
I figured because
and
of the
you
talent
just have to go
disparity
recruit.
between like top and bottom of the entire NCAA, like you might have an easier time because if you're like middle of the pack in NCAA, you're still gonna get like, I don't know, 20 something wins, but in the NBA, you're middle of the pack. You might win half your games, but you're
NBA. You still also have
now play-in tournament, but
NBA
no
you get
expectations.
So many playoff spots. You get money. You get people to make and build the team for you. You got to just do it all yourself. Like the contracts and the NIL shit and the recruiting is just so tough, man.
Yeah.
That's why that's my only concern with Billy is if he can handle that. We'll see.
Yeah.
No, he can't.
We'll see.
He has.
He also did win back-to-back titles.
Yeah, he went back-to-back titles at Florida. It does look like Vogel was a graduate assistant at Kentucky where Rick Pitino was the coach at the time.
That's a connection. I didn't know that. I don't think I knew that. Interesting.
Oh.
How much young was he? Like 20?
Well, he was a grad assistant, so he's probably like 22.
Yeah.
23.
Damn.
It was in the spring of 97.
Jeez. Still no chance. Please don't. Wait, what year? 92?
97.
Oh, okay. It was right after they won the title. He wasn't on the team when they won the title?
No.
Just missed him. Missed him by a year. We can move on to the Final Four now, though, if you guys want.
Yeah, it works for me.
Unless you got anything else. You look like you got something on your mind up there.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm looking at a picture of Pitino and Vogel.
future. Those are my future two coaches. Hopefully.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Or actually not hopefully. I hope they can Vogel's bitch ass after this season. But moving on to the Final Four, unless they win the title, NC State and Purdue. 3-point shooting was the story for Purdue in this one, which is funny because it's for the opposite reason of the national championship. But they shot 40% in this game. NC State shoots 26% from three. Lance Jones had probably his best tournament game here. I believe he had like 14 points against NC State. DJ Horn was the leading scorer, but he wasn't super efficient for NC State. Burns and Diarra were very quiet. NC State just finally met their match, and they lost to a much better team in Purdue. And after looking back at this whole tournament, and I guess we can wrap it up when we talk about the championship, but I I look at all these teams, and I think that truly UConn, Purdue, and Houston were probably the three best teams in the tournament. We knew that going in, but I feel like that was solidified. It would have been Houston and Purdue in the Final Four had Shed not gotten hurt. But yeah, Purdue took care of business. It would have been really, really hard for me to imagine NC State winning this game.
Oh, we're just going like that. Okay. I mean, yeah, Purdue was just outmatching them the entire time. I figured we were gonna go 3-3-3. Purdue just no one was stopping Edey. Did he have 40 that game, or was that the game before?
He had 40 against Tennessee. He had like 20 in this one, I think.
Ah, right. But still, you're not going to stop Edey, and he was just a force defensively. That's going to be the story for most Purdue games. But I mean, they made it look easy. Purdue was just outmatching them.
Yeah, Purdue dominated this game, really. DJ Burns couldn't really get going. I think he only had 8 points. Like you said, Zach Edey, he didn't have the greatest game, 20 and 12, maybe his least amount scoring, but still dominated defensively. Purdue shot 40% from the field. DJ Burns, 4 for 10 shooting, had 3 fouls with 19 minutes to go. We had said that was going to be an issue and that he had to try to stay out of foul trouble. Unfortunately, he was not able to. And Purdue was able to get the lead and kind of never look back. NC State had a couple chances, but could never get close enough to take the lead.
Moving on here, Alabama, UConn. This game was very close for like 75% of the game. Sears for Alabama was elite. He's been elite all season for them. He was super efficient, had I believe like 25 this game. Grant Nelson, amazing. He had 19 points, 15 assists, wasn't super efficient, 19 points, 15 rebounds. Wasn't super efficient, but had a great game. I think he has a chance to be a pretty decent NBA player. All 5 UConn starters had at least 12 points, just ridiculous stuff. This Bama team is good. They had a great offense. Nate Oates did a good job, and I'm realizing now I didn't mention Nate Oates in that group of coaches that I would have wanted. Also said no. But like I said, this Bama team is pretty good. UConn just on a whole nother level. Everybody on UConn just seems to do everything right. There's not many mistakes. Everything's clean. Nobody has really any true weaknesses that you can see glaringly. And it was the writing on the wall for UConn has been here for a while.
I completely agree. Bama, they had to rely on their offense, and they couldn't get it done. They were close within the first half, but then UConn, they just have more talent all around. They ended up pulling away in the end. And like you said, Josh, they're just a wagon. There's not really much you can do against a team who's better than you on almost both ends of the floor. But the difference between UConn and Bama's defense is just too massive for Alabama to really overcome.
Yeah, this was probably the hardest game for UConn all tournament. Alabama played a good game. We said they had to score a lot and be efficient. They were pretty efficient. Mark Sears had 24. Grant Nelson had 15 boards. But UConn, like you guys said, is just too good all around. Klingon had 18 boards, 4 blocks. Their defense took over the game late, held Bama without a field goal for like a 5 or 6 minute stretch there late in the game. And that was able to get UConn to pull away. And again, wasn't a close game in the end. UConn continues to just dominate teams. They don't play close games.
And then here we go. Another win for UConn in the national championship. We're flying through this tournament or these few games talking about it, but UConn flew through this whole tournament. Purdue was very in this game, especially in the first half, mainly in the first half. They were up for a little bit. There was really back and forth for most of the first half. At the end of the first half, UConn pulled away, got up by 6. The game plan for Purdue is just what makes no sense to me. Beat that out. Damn it. Is just what makes no sense to me. Purdue's offensive style is we're going to give the ball to Edey every time. At some point, you're not going to be able to guard him. You're going to have to double him. And he's smart enough where he can make the decision and throw to our 3-point shooters. The problem last year when they lost to Fairleigh Dickinson is they used the same strategy and they didn't have shooters. They come in this year, they use that same strategy again. They have shooters to the second best 3-point shooting in college basketball. Shout out Kentucky for being number one. But they went to this game wanting to do that. They didn't have any other potential game plan. And they ran into a guy in Klingon who you can't do that against because he's going to be able to guard Edey and make him shoot it. And their philosophy was, okay, Edey can go get 30, 40 points, which he did. But at no point, except for only a few times they did it, are we going to force ourselves to double him. If we just make him go one-on-one with Klingon, he's going to have a cold stretch. They're not going to be able to get their three-point shots off. The Purdue players were scared, and they just took advantage of that. They just let Klingon go. He did get bodied a lot. Edey, especially in the beginning of that game, was just scoring every bucket. Edey goes on an 0 for 6 stretch. He comes back and ends up being good after that 0 for 6 stretch. But Purdue shoots 7 threes. You cannot shoot. They went 1 for 7. You cannot shoot 7 threes and win a basketball game, a championship in 2024. You can't do it anymore. It's not the 60s anymore. The game isn't going to be 40 to 50. Like you cannot shoot 7 threes. And the reason, I mean, they had some shots where they could have came off screens and like put up what would have been a tough shot, but a makeable shot. They chose not to. They chose to stick to the script. Okay, Edey has 40 points. Let's just keep feeding him. Well, you're not going to win on twos when they're shooting threes. And that's just never going to happen. And this isn't a game where another part of Purdue's game plan was let's get Klingon in foul trouble. Let's get Samson Johnson in foul trouble. They did both of those things, and it still didn't matter because UConn refused to double unless both of their centers were out of the game. That was the only time when they double. I think they maybe had like 3 or 4 doubles, and that was the story of the game. And shout out to Purdue. They're a really good team. I think they were the 3rd best team in this tournament. But UConn was just far and away the best team. 12 straight tournament games they've won, all by 13 plus points. Absolutely insane. And to go on top of that, not only do you have 2 dominant runs in a row, not only do you have 2 back-to-back natties, but you also have 6 titles in 25 years, which is just an insane stat. Puts them at 3 now behind UCLA with 11, Kentucky with 8, and now they're tied with UNC at 6.
Yeah, that honestly leads me into my first point. 6 and 25 is absolute dominance over the last quarter century. That's like Brady and Belichick Patriots dynasty numbers. Sure, it's not like the 6 and 20 that they had when it was Brady and Belichick, but 6 and 25 is a championship roughly every 4 and some change years. I could only dream of my team. Granted, I'm not the biggest college fan, but if Kentucky won a championship, one every 4 years and then back to back, like the last 2 years, I would just be ecstatic. They were dominant this entire run. I think they won every single game by double digits. I wasn't alive. I wasn't alive.
Neither was I. We still got 8 though.
Hey, that's fine.
Dude, you guys are winning championships during World War II, man.
Manners fly forever, baby.
You guys are winning championships for World War II. The real men were overseas.
Like
you guys are winning
AFC
championships.
Our boys were better than the
Okay,
other
how many
boys.
Super Bowls do the Lions? Okay, how many Super Bowls do the Lions have?
Oh my God.
We got some NFL championships.
What are we doing here?
NFL championships is crazy.
I gotta start repping those more.
The Wright brothers have just invented flying.
Got Orville Wright rocking a Lions uni after they win the 1885 championship. Oh my God. But UConn is, I'm not saying they're a blue blood or anything, but they're starting to put themselves among the top programs ever. They're just being super dominant as of late. And I don't know, like maybe they cement themselves within the top 10, top 5 relatively soon if they continue this stretch of dominance. They don't put a lot of guys into the NBA like a Kentucky or a Duke or Kansas does, but man, they produce winners year in and year out. And on the women's side, they know what they're doing with their entire basketball program. So just props to them, and I guess participation trophy for Purdue. I hate you guys.
Purdue got to the Final Four though. They needed to get over that hump at least.
Yeah.
They
can hang their 4th banner finally. First one since like 1979 or whatever, 1980. But UConn proved that they were by far and away the best team in the country. Zach, you had said how hard it is to win 6 straight games. They were able to win 12 straight games. None of them have been by fewer than 13 points. They had just been dominant in March for 2 years in a row now. Dan Hurley has his team basically like a blue blood, new blood. They got to be in there somewhere. Tristan Newton won most outstanding player. He played phenomenal. He had a couple buckets that were very tough. He had 20 points in the national championship. And I'm with you completely, Josh. Purdue's game plan was just abysmal. And they also were just getting bullied on the boards, just bullied all over the court. Often UConn would get an offensive rebound. It seemed like every time they missed. Braden Smith, and even in the game against NC State, he did not play good. He played terrible in this game too. He played scared out there. Fletcher Lawyer did not look good in this game at all. Purdue was only 1 for 7 for 3, like you said. That's terrible. Painter choked when the lights were brightest. You have to have a better game plan than that. They had one player with an assist in the entire championship game. It was Braden Smith. He had 8. That's terrible, especially with Purdue, a team that runs the type of offense they do, where they do a lot of passing. Just a terrible game plan. UConn bullied them. They were scared of UConn. But shout out Dan Hurley, shout out UConn. Just a dominant 2 years in a row. Hopefully it's not 3.
And Edie and Braden Smith combined for 49 of Purdue's 60 points. And that was 39 from Edie and 12 from Smith. 37 of 60 is just insane. Edie did everything.
Poor Edie. He did everything he could.
He could. Well, with that being said,
and yet he still gets shit.
Yeah. I mean, he's good and tall. I think both can be true.
Yeah, both can be true.
You can't deny he's not tall. We can.
He's tall.
It's hard to argue.
He's good for a tall guy. Let's put it that way.
And what's crazy is he's going to go in the first round now, it looks like. That
Really?
kind of came out of nowhere the past few weeks, but it's looking like he might be a late first rounder.
Call me crazy. Maybe it's a hot take. I think his ceiling is like an Ivan Zubac or a Mitchell Robinson.
I don't
Being
think
a
that's
big man and
crazy.
not being
That's
a little-
fine.
I think that would be a great ceiling for him.
I think that's like his absolute best ceiling. But
I think
If
Zubac-
Mitchell Robinson was 7'4", he'd be a baller.
But we see guys
both are
like
good
Taco
players.
Fall with crazy height, and he's playing in Guangdong for the Guangdong Tigers. Ni hao. Like it's just
Taco Fall played at UCF. Zach Edey just won back-to-back National Player of the Years.
Yeah.
There's level. There's a little bit levels.
And Zach Edey's also big and muscular too. That's
Dude,
something
Zach Edey
rare.
is 7'4", 300 pounds.
Yeah.
Every time I
would
hear them
hope
say
he
that on the
could beat
speakers,
guys
it
like that.
haunts me, bro.
The Taco Fall.
He's
like
7'7", probably like 285,
7'5",
isn't he?
7'6".
7'6". It says 290. I feel like that might be generous, but maybe
was
he put on
close.
some pounds after
How
college.
tall is Wemby and what's his weight?
He's 7'4", 250, maybe 240.
Like that's just
238.
I'm all over it right now.
Sub
I'm all over it.
Being 7'4" and sub 240 is just it's a scary thing because just injuries. But I mean,
They fluctuate with the inches on the height though. Like I remember they used to say Wemby was 7'5".
I
They
mean,
used to say
you
Taco Fall
look
was
at him.
7'7".
You could say like 7'4", 7'5" is well
Yeah.
within the. You could say either, and I don't think you're gonna freak out about it.
The
I
difference
mean,
is he's a small forward and
Yeah.
Edey's a center.
They have the picture of them at the U19 or whatever of Edey
Yeah.
and Wemby, and they're basically the same height. So, and then Chet's a little bit shorter.
Yeah, I saw the picture of it was Edey, Jaden Ivey.
Yeah, Jaden Ivey. Yeah,
Chet, I
Right.
forget who else was in that pick.
there was one more dude. I don't know who it is.
I know Chet was in there.
Yeah.
Forget who else, but yeah. With that being said, I think we can move on to our mock draft here. Before we start, I want to say we're doing what we think should happen, right? Not what we think will happen. Like we're picking for these teams, not predicting.
Yes,
Yes.
I was picking for the teams that I.
Okay,
had.
cool. So was I. Just making sure. All right, so we will start it off now. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to alternate picks here. We do not know what picks each other are going to make, so we'll all be doing it on the fly. Zach's going to start. He's going to do pick 1. I'm going to do pick 2. Mike's going to do pick 3. And then Zach will do 4, etc. And we'll move all the way to, like Zach said, we're going to go through pick 33, which is the Panthers' first pick in the second round. And yeah, we'll start it off now, Zach. You start us off with pick number 1. Drum roll.
All right. First pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, Chicago Bears. I'm having them select Caleb Williams. It's kind of obvious that's kind of the writing on the wall that we see right now. Caleb has only taken one top 30 visit, and the Bears have only done one top 30 visit with a quarterback, that being Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams did it with the Chicago Bears. Fields was traded a little while ago. This is kind of just a no-brainer move for Chicago after they lucked into the number 1 overall pick from the Carolina Panthers. And yeah, I'm excited to see where this takes us.
All right, at number 2, like we said, we think this is what the teams should do. I'm going to select Drake May, quarterback from North Carolina. I personally have him above Jaden Daniels on my board. I think he's just better overall in the pocket. I think he's more NFL ready. I think he's more durable. I've said multiple times on here how I'm worried about Jaden Daniels' future and staying healthy just with his play style. So I think it makes more sense for Washington to go with Drake May over Jaden Daniels. But if I had to make a guess of what I think they're going to do, I do think they'll go Daniels. But I'm going with May here at 2.
Well, then at 3 for the New England Patriots, I will have them taking Jaden Daniels. It seems like they like him a lot. It seemed like they like him during his season with Bill Belichick. He has a big playability with his legs. He can run. He won the Heisman last season. He has a decent amount of arm talent. I'm worried about, we've talked about how it's possible he takes way too many big hits. When he gets hit, it looks like sonic rings fly out of him, Mario coins or whatever. But I can see him being a good quarterback. They need a quarterback. I don't think they should go in any other position. So I have the Patriots taking Jaden Daniels.
With the 4th overall pick, I have the Cardinals taking Marvin Harrison Jr. This feels like a no-brainer. It gives Kyler Murray his wide receiver 1 for pretty much the rest of his Cardinals career. This is the best wide receiver prospect we've seen since Calvin Johnson. This may be an undercover trade down spot with Minnesota if the right offer comes in. It would probably have to be an overpay to get the Cardinals to pry away from Marvin Harrison Jr., but I'm not going to worry about that in this mock. We're not doing trades, so I have the Cardinals going with Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yep, you guys are making it easy on me early. Going with Malik Neighbors at 5 to the Chargers. They lose Mike Williams. They lose Keenan Allen. Quentin Johnson's a question mark. Makes a lot of sense for them to go Neighbors here. I think there's a lot of drafts where maybe he is the number 1 wide receiver prospect, but Marvin Harrison, obviously, he's not. He's a very good receiver. He's very twitchy. He's a good route runner. He's really fast. I think he'll do well with Jim Harbaugh in LA. I think it's a pretty no-brainer pick for them here at 5.
Yeah, so at 6, with you taking Malik Neighbors, I will have the New York Giants taking Romo Dunze. They need a receiver. He is the best receiver available at this point. He's 6'2", 212 pounds. He's a big guy. Runs a 4.4 40-yard dash. He's quick. He's very twitchy. I think he'll be a good receiver, and we know this team needs help anywhere. Daniel Jones will most likely be back at quarterback, unfortunately for them. Maybe they need a tight end considering Darren Waller's contemplating retirement, but I have them taking Romo Dunze and 3 wide receivers off the board early.
Yeah, so at 7, I have the Tennessee Titans going with Joe Alt. He's a fantastic offensive tackle prospect and will be another cornerstone piece for the offensive line next to Peter Skoronski, who was drafted at pick 11, I believe, last year by the Titans. They could go receiver if the board falls their way, but in this mock draft, it doesn't seem to be going that way. But with their receiving room being heavily invested in with DeAndre Hopkins, who has 1 year left on his year left on his deal. Oh my God, can't talk today. Calvin Ridley, who just signed a 4-year deal in this offseason, and Treylon Burks is, I believe, entering his 3rd season after being drafted with the 16th overall pick in the 2022 draft. So I have Joe Alt going to the Titans at 7.
Got it. With that being said, at 8, I have the Atlanta Falcons picking Dallas Turner, edge from Alabama. First defensive player off the board, maybe the best defensive player in this draft. I think Raheem Morris goes defense in his first year in Atlanta. It makes the most sense for them. Atlanta's going to be a pretty good team, in my opinion. And I think them being able to go best player available here on defense is important for them. And I think he can be a great player off the bat.
Yeah, this makes it tough with the Bears here. I think in this position, this is when the Bears would trade back, considering all of the receiving weapons are off the board. No Dallas Turner. Honk, if you were in the Bears position here, who would you take?
Me personally, if I had to stick and pick at 9, I'd go Laiatu Latu.
Well, guess what?
JJ
McCarthy.
They're gonna take JJ. I got Audric Estime going at 9 here. I've been saying that for months now. He's a top 10 pick now. I'm gonna go
pre-ordering Shadur Sanders at number 9 for next year.
I'm not gonna go Latu. I'm gonna go Jared Verse here. I think they're very similar. Jared Verse had his moments early in his career. He was expected to go into this draft and be higher. He has very good measurables. He struggled later in the season. 4.58 40-yard dash. He is on the smaller side. He only weighs 254, but I think he's going to be a very good defensive end, and I think the Bears could use another guy on that D-line.
All right, with pick 10, I have the New York Jets going with Olu Fashanu. This may seem as a semi-shock, but I do think they could use the depth. And if Olu does just beat out Mekhi Becton at that right tackle spot, then they've got a tackle for the future. With Tyron Smith just being really old and kind of on a 1-year prove-it deal with a lot of incentives, Rodgers is going to really want him at left tackle, and I think they just try and add another piece for depth and maybe just to get the best 5 out there. So I don't think everyone on their O-line is going to play all 17. So just get more depth and just protect Rodgers, because O-line was one of their biggest issues last year.
Yep, at 11 here. Not trading up works up for the Vikings. They can get JJ McCarthy at 11. Even though we are doing what they should do here, and I'm not a big JJ McCarthy guy, they need to go quarterback, and it seems like that's the play at this point for them. Taking him at number 11. I don't think it makes any sense for them to go try and trade up for him and give up assets. But if you're looking at this Vikings team, you could either just draft random best player available. Maybe you take like, I don't even know, because you can't even go like Brock Bowers here because you already have Hawkinson. So you could draft a defensive player, but when you don't have a quarterback, that really doesn't do anything for you. I think they go JJ McCarthy here. I think they probably should. And in the event, I mean, at the end of the day, if all these scouts are seeing him as this great quarterback, I mean, who are we to say that he's definitively not, right? I mean, these guys
I'll
are
say
getting,
it.
okay. I'm not going to, but like if there's multiple scouts that are viewing him super high in the draft, like what am I going to be able to say to be like, no, you're completely wrong. You have no idea what you're talking about.
I do that all the
I
time.
don't think he's going to be phenomenal, but I mean, I don't think he's going to go out there and be like horrid at quarterback. Like I think he'll be better than Sam Darnold. So with that being said, I'm taking McCarthy at 11.
To quote the great Zach Youngman, he doesn't pass the eye test, in my opinion.
I can agree with that, actually. I can agree with that.
Look who's crawling back.
Fields never passed it, buddy.
No, he had that throw against Clemson like 7 years ago.
Right. Yeah, right.
With the 12th overall pick, the Broncos. A lot of people, I see a lot of mock drafts with them taking offensive weapons or Brock Bowers or someone on the offensive side of the football. Considering their position that they're in right now, unless they're going to go and take Bo Nix in the second round, I don't see them really. I don't think they should do that. I don't think that would help them right now. Their team is just so bad. I think they should go with the secondary. They're losing Justin Simmons most likely. Luckily, they still have Patrick Surtain. But I'm going to go with Terrion Arnold. Pair 2 Alabama cornerbacks together. Help make that secondary a little bit better. He is 5'11", 189. I had a decent pro day and draft combine. And I think it's important for them to just keep their secondary in a good spot. Their offense is it's not going to be good at all. And I think this Broncos team is just not going to be good at all next year.
Somehow through 13 picks, my mock draft kind of remains perfect. I had everything, at least what you guys are saying, relatively perfect. Just substitute Jared Verse for Laiatu Latu. But with 13, I have the Raiders going with Thalys Fuaga. I think they're really going to want to solidify their offensive line before they select their QB of the future in either next year's draft or even in free agency. They are rocking with AOC out of Purdue, and they just signed Gardner Minshew as well. So they're just going to try and solidify the situation around a potential rookie or younger quarterback that they bring in next year, in my opinion. A cornerback could be a sneaky pick here, but I don't think it'll happen. I think they're going to want to solidify the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, here's where at 14 for the Saints, I've gone back and forth, whether going with a tackle or maybe going with an offensive weapon. I'm going to throw you a bone here, Mike, and I'm not going to take Bowers here. Just know I probably would have, but I'm going to take
You can.
I'm going to take Brian Thomas at 14.
Well,
I'm going to reach for them at 14. I think you have a situation with that Chris Olave has been in the past few years where he has had successful seasons, but he's had virtually no help. I think if you draft Brian Thomas for them, you have that duo that you could build off of. And the offense with Derek Carr, I find it hard to believe that he would struggle in that current situation. I think having Olave sets Brian Thomas up to develop really well, not having to be the wide receiver one off rip where he might be on some of these other teams. So I like them taking him there. And like I said, the options, in my opinion, were tackle and receiver there. And as much as I'm okay with J.C. Latham, and that was kind of who I was between from Bama, but I'm going to go with Brian Thomas at 14.
Makes sense too. It's a Louisiana guy staying in Louisiana. That was going to be my pick if you did take Brock Bowers with the Colts here, but Colts are on the clock at 15. They didn't have to trade up, and they get Brock Bowers, the guy who I personally would like the Colts to draft. I think it's very important to get a young quarterback, another solid weapon, and especially a tight end. A lot of the great quarterbacks have all had a tight end that they were able to go to, and Brock Bowers has been able to be very, very good in his college career. I think he's going to be a great tight end. He's pretty quick. He's not the greatest blocker, but I think he'll be able to get by. And pairing him with Anthony Richardson, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce, if he's able to continue to develop a little bit, I think this offense could be very scary and very good.
At 16, I have the Seattle Seahawks taking Laiatu Latu. I actually think he's probably the best pure edge rusher in this class. He kind of reminds me of a mini TJ Watt with his style and how he uses his moves. He's still a little bit raw compared to Watt, but I think he's still got a lot of potential. This gives Seattle an edge rusher to start building around, and it wouldn't make much sense to see them go offense as they have some really great skill position guys in DK, Lockett, JSN, Charbonnet, and K9 out of the backfield. Cornerback could also work here too to pair with Tariq Woolen, but I think Laiatu Latu is the correct pick here. Keep him on the West Coast. He's a really good player.
All right, at 17 here, I think this could be a slam dunk pick for the Jaguars. I'm gonna go with Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo. I think he's probably maybe. I don't want to just jump the gun and say he's the best corner in the draft, but he might be the best corner in the draft. He's got good size at 6 foot 200. And Jacksonville, just their secondary, as we saw, even though they really overperformed at the beginning of last year, we talked about it so many times. There's no reason to talk about it again. They did fall off at the end of the year. Boosting up that secondary makes a lot of sense for them. They do have a lot of needs. I think maybe if Brian Thomas was still on the board there, I could maybe have taken him from taken him by Jacksonville at 17. But since I did not pick him, since I picked him at 14, I cannot do that. So I'm going to go with Quinyon Mitchell at 17 to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
At 18, I have the Bengals taking Byron Murphy, not to be confused with their last year's first round pick, Miles Murphy. That hasn't really worked out for him. Maybe this Murphy will work out for him. They lost DJ Reader. They need a defensive tackle replacement. They have a few holes on offense. I think they could work on maybe a running back, but I think they can fix those in the later rounds. And I think it'll be important to fix up that interior defensive line. They did sign Sheldon Rankins. They still have BJ Hill, but I think they can do more by getting a young guy to throw in there as rotation.
Oh, my page is reset. But with what pick is it? 19? Yeah, I got the Rams. I had them taking Quinyon Mitchell, but I'm gonna pivot and I'm gonna have them take Johnny Newton out of Illinois. He's a very raw prospect on the interior, but they did just lose Aaron Donald to retirement. So congrats to him. Hall of Fame level career, first ballot. But they're just gonna need a replacement and a front set or a front four, including Byron Young, Kobe Turner, and I just said his name, Johnny Newton. That could be scary in 2-3 years time. So that could give the 49ers front a little bit of trouble. Could give the Seattle front a little bit of trouble on the interior, especially. They can compete in this division for a little while if they select him.
Yep. Moving on here. Steelers at pick 20. Here is where I 100% want to go tackle. Steelers tackles are not great. Broderick Jones is still even a question mark, and he's a better tackle than Dan Moore. So I'm between Troy Fatano and JC Latham. I'm going to go Latham just because I tend to, maybe it's just because I'm a Lions fan, but I tend to lean Bama players at all costs.
Yeah, 21 Miami Dolphins. They need help on the offensive line, so I think I'll just go with the tackle you didn't pick, and I'll go Troy Fatanu. They need help on the offensive line, and yeah, it's a toss-up. They could use the help on the offensive line. I could see them going secondary, maybe with Nate Wiggins or Cooper DeJean, but I'm going to go with offensive line here.
With pick number 22, I have the Philadelphia Eagles going with Chop Robinson. They lost Hassan Reddick via trade, and this makes one of the scariest young defensive lines in the league with Chop Robinson, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and a veteran Josh Sweat to kind of lead the way. This defense is just going to keep reloading with talent. They ended up taking, I think it's Nolan Smith at the end of the first round last year out of Georgia. Just add another body to that room. They're going to be real scary in a little bit. And hopefully they just keep that talent on the offensive side of the ball and they continue to build a juggernaut.
Okay, that messed up everything for me because the thing I'm using to track this doesn't have him as Chop, so that's a problem, but found him. So, all right, where are we at? Oh, Minnesota? Oh, this is interesting because I had Philly taking Cooper DeJean at 22.
Ooh, okay.
So I think I'm just going to have the Vikings take him at 23 then. I want him to be on the Lions. If the Lions trade up for him, I'm cool with whatever we give up. But I think he's going to be a very popular cornerback pick here. And a team like Minnesota definitely could benefit from having another corner. They had a solid defense last year. They're all right up front. They're all right back, but this is the Flores system. I think whatever uh defense they run out there is going to be able to at least perform decent for them. So just add as much talent as you can, and Cooper Jean has potential to be very, very good. Coming off an injury, but he has potential to be very good.
Next pick, your Dallas Cowboys. I think they need help on the offensive line. They lost Tyron Smith. They're losing Tyler Biadasz too. They lost him. I guess I'll go Jackson Powers Johnson. They need a center. He's a young center. He's pretty quick. I think they need help on the offensive line. This will give that to him. So I got Jackson Powers Johnson going to the Cowboys.
All right, so I had to redo my entire draft because I accidentally exited out of my page. So while you guys were going, I was simultaneously trying to pick the guys who have already been taken, not even in order. So are either Mims or JC Latham, have they been taken yet?
Latham,
JC
yes,
Latham
Mims,
has Mims, no.
Okay, so with 25, I'm having I had the Packers going Cooper DeJean, but I'm going with Amarius Mims to them. They just lost Bakhtiari. I believe they released him, and I don't think he retired, but they did part ways. So I think since he's gone, they're going to try and replace him a little bit, give Jordan Love some more protection. He did well when he did a clean pocket last year, and Amarius Mims, I think he can provide that for them.
Now as we're getting later on in here, now is where my mock draft that I did before is just getting all fucked up. Like I think I had Wiggins going to Green Bay, but now that he's available, I'm going to take him here for Tampa. Another team could use a corner. A lot of teams, honestly, in the back half of this draft that could use a corner, and luckily there are a good amount of corners here late, especially with DeJean, Wiggins, Kool-Aid, McKinstry. The Pirates are down 5-0. I'm going to take Wiggins here at 26.
Here's where the Cardinals, from the Houston Texans, Cardinals are on the clock. I think they could go many different ways. Corner, they could help their offensive line, or maybe they just go rogue and draft another receiver and really shore up that receiver room. I could see them going AD Mitchell here and just stacking receivers for Kyler, considering they don't have too much. But I'm gonna go with Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think they'll go on both sides of the ball, get help in the secondary, and who doesn't want to add a guy named Kool-Aid?
Thank God you did that because I have the Buffalo Bills going Adonai, aka AD Mitchell, out of Texas. He's a physical freak. He didn't set the combine record in terms of 40 time, but he does remind me of a little bit of like CeeDee Lamb with how he runs his routes. So if he gets to his full potential, look out because Josh Allen has himself a weapon. This year's going to be huge just for him to prove that he can do it without Stephon Diggs. He struggled a little bit without Diggs before he arrived in Buffalo, and now that he is now in Houston, Josh Allen's kind of got to work with what he has. And as of now, Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel as your wide receiver 1 and 2, that's not something to be super excited about. So I'm having them go Adonai Mitchell.
All right, for the first time in my life, the Lions are at pick 29. I'm already dreading how long the draft is going to be to wait for the Lions in a couple weeks here. But yeah, this is kind of a nightmare situation for the Lions. They were in a spot where they can go best player available. Cam Sutton happened. Now they kind of want to go corner. And if you look at how this draft works out in the teams, I just don't really see a situation where any of Wiggins, DeJean, or McKinstry end up here at 29. Hopefully they do. I just don't see how that happens. Would it be funny to go Penix here? Yes, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with Darius Robinson from Missouri. Edge would be the second biggest need here for the Lions. He's a tank. The Lions like big physical SEC players traditionally. I think they're going to go with that here. And honestly, I think he can be a pretty decent player.
Yeah. On to the Ravens. This is a team kind of like the next team, the Niners, where they don't really have many holes at all that they have to fix. They're drafting for best player available. They could go for depth at receiver, depth at O-line, or they did lose Clowney, so maybe they go for a pass rushing player. Xavier Worthy, or I'm going to go with Graham Barton, just help on the offensive line. You can never have too much. He had a very good combine. He's very athletic, 6'5", 313 pounds. Very good in pass protection to help Lamar if they want to keep him as a passer, as more of a runner. So I'll go with Graham Barton.
With pick number 31, I have the 49ers going with Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma. He's offensive tackle, give them someone opposite of Trent Williams if he does win that job off rip. it'll be a very impressive spot for them to be in. Just build that O-line and continue to let those skill position players and Kittle, CMC, Debo, Ayuk, just let them all eat. I think this could be a really solid pick. He's got a RAS score, RAS of 9.73. He could be a real dog out there. He can, maybe they throw him in motion and put him and Trent Williams on the same side. Who knows? But they could probably do something special with him.
Yeah, that's the easiest pick of the draft for me here at 32 with the Chiefs. Obviously, I'm going with Xavier Worthy. I mean, this is just the dream situation for him. It's the dream situation for the Chiefs, and then a nightmare situation for the rest of us. But as we all know, fastest player in combine history, at least with the 40. Him with Patrick Mahomes is like, I mean, we'll see. Can that fill the Tyreek void? I don't know. Is there even a Tyreek void? I don't know. But regardless, I think Xavier Worthy on the Chiefs is just deadly, very, very deadly.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe in that case, the Ravens see that as a possibility and just go rogue and take Xavier Worthy to try to keep him away from the Chiefs and get him for yourself. But
It's honestly not a bad idea.
no,
It's not at all.
If the Lions want to do that too, I'm fine with it. But
That'd be
so
scary.
with 33, the Panthers are up. At this point, I think they got Deontay Johnson and Adam Thielen. I think you need to give Bryce Young as many weapons as possible. Go out and give him a big guy like Keon Coleman, great receiver. I think he's going to be very good. Didn't have the best combine, but I think he's going to be good. He has game speed, not 40 speed. He has some spectacular catches. He's a freak athlete. I think he's going to be fine in the NFL. So I have the Panthers going with Keon Coleman.
yeah, I gotta say, I have some regrets in this draft. For some reason, Keon Coleman's name just completely went over my head. Had I remembered his name, I would have taken him at 29 for the Lions. But
That's crazy. How did you not remember that?
I don't know. Lions need
Oh
an
my
X, and he's an
goodness.
X. But regardless, I think they'd be fine with theirs. But that wraps up our. I guess is this our first mock draft? I guess it's technically our second.
First full mock
Yeah,
draft.
first round. Some notable names that did not go in the first round here: Penix, Nix, Lad McConkey. There was a lot of talk of Penix going in the first round, and maybe even Nix going in the first round if that many teams needed quarterbacks right after the college season ended. But as time has gone on, it doesn't look like that's going to be the story. Especially with JJ McCarthy shooting up the board. I think that kind of killed any chance of Penix, but I think he'll be a second round quarterback, and Bo Nix, we'll see. But that about does it here for this episode of the Engage 8 podcast. Next week, what are we doing next week?
We could tap into the NBA because I think some playoff matchups.
Yeah,
will be
yeah.
set.
And our
maybe-
final mock draft, mate. Well,
maybe we
could
do
be our
one more
final.
mock
We
draft.
could do one final mock draft if there are any crazy trades.
We'll have a play-in recap. Maybe Kentucky will have a coach. I'm not sure. We'll figure something out between now and then. But until next time, hit all the links in our description for our Spotify, TikTok, all of our social medias, the #social media, etc. Until next time, we'll see everybody in the next one.